All right, well, from there, let's cross over live to our Abuja studios as we get some perspectives as regards the power sector. It's one sector that concerns every Nigerian household. There are issues around the grid collapse, there are issues around the subnationals, there's the Electricity Act. Just how are we faring? One man seems to be virtually everywhere ensuring that, you know what, let's see how we can have alternative power and clean energy. He's the MD and CEO of REA, that's the Rural Electrification Agency. Dr. Abba Aliyu joins us live now from our Abuja studios. Thank you indeed, Dr. Aliyu, for agreeing to talk to us here on the program and perhaps do a review of perhaps maybe the last 6 months of how your agency is faring. By the way, congratulations, your chairman, Ayodele Fayose, was announced a few days ago. There are many reservations to that, but let's leave that and just move on very quickly, Dr. Aliyu. So where are we now in terms of just how far so far with the agency and what you're trying to do, especially at the subnationals?
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you also for giving me this opportunity to update the Nigerians as regards to what Rural Electrification Agency is currently doing. We have already started the implementation of the DES project. Before we started, I was at this station where I highlighted all the targets that we set for ourselves. The DES project, it's the biggest publicly funded renewable energy access project in the world. That would provide electricity to 17.5 million Nigeria, quite an ambitious project. And that as today we had already started. The project is oversubscribed because we had implemented it in partnership with the private sector. As at today, for the first time in the history of the country, we are deploying more than 1,000 mini grid across the country, isolated mini grids. And we also have been very bullish in the deployment of the interconnected mini grids. We are working on 48 of them across the entire country in collaboration with all the distribution companies. We have been going around the country doing the groundbreaking, setting a target of between 6 to 8 months to deploy all the interconnected mini grids. We also have completed our intervention in the universities, where we completed 15 universities. As at today, all these universities now are fully connected with the solar farms. We have also been very ambitious when it comes to catalyzing private sector fund financing. We have convinced a number of Nigerian banks, and we signed a number of memorandum for either equipment financing or debt financing or even bridge financing to the private sector for them to deploy the renewable infrastructure. We also have completed the mapping of the entire country, which is guiding us with very good data of where we should intervene and how we should intervene and what kind of technology we should intervene. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, we mapped the entire country, identify over 750,000 communities that exist in the country. From Lagos State, the biggest community with over 2.5 million households, to communities that are just 2 or 3 houses. We have the data, we know the number of houses in each communities, and we know whether the community is electrified, underserved, or not provided with the electricity, and we know the least cost of providing that community. We also have achieved that. So this is where we are as at today as when it comes to the implementation of our projects.
So this mini grid regulatory framework that the agency is running, according to interviews that you have granted, correct me if I'm wrong, marks a shift from small-scale pilot projects to utility scale of grid electricity, right?
Yes, exactly. It's one of the major achievements also that we recorded under this administration. If you look at the previous mini-grid regulation, the highest capacity of a mini-grid we can deploy is 1 megawatt. And we have been very vocal about it. We informed the regulator that Nigeria needs to be much more ambitious than just 1 megawatt of mini-grid capacity. If you look at other African countries that do not even have electricity challenge as we have, they have a mini grid regulation where a private sector can deploy up to 50 megawatt of a mini grid, and we informed the regulator. We had discussion, and that's based on that they reviewed the regulation. Now we can deploy up to 5 megawatt of isolated mini grid and 10 megawatt of interconnected mini
so
grid.
it's the size of the megawatts that makes the difference. I was going to ask about the difference. So out of the households that you have identified, and based on your target of 17.5 million households that you intend to electrify, what number of the 17.5 million have you achieved so far since you took over the agency?
So we have, as at today, we have a number of mini grids that we have completed, close to 100. Our target, like I told you in the beginning, is 1,350 mini grids, and currently we are working on more than 1,000 mini grids. And we also have a target of 250 interconnected mini grids, but we have started with 48. So as at today, there are a number of mini grids that have already been completed, much more than even 100. But these are all the isolated mini grids out of the 1,000 that we are working towards to deliver. My take is by the first quarter, end of this year, or early first quarter of next year, we would definitely have more than half of the 1,000 completed commission, and they are ready to start providing services to the community. But as at today, we already have a number of them that have been completed. I was last month, I was in Kogi, where we did the commissioning of 2 in Dekina, Olamo, Boro, Yingba side, where we had already completed. We have also completed a number of them in Ondo. We have also completed in Kano, and a number of states within the country.
The question maybe you didn't respond to was, out of these ones that have been installed and ongoing, of the 17 million you intend to reach, how many has been reached so far from your data?
Well, I don't have that number offhand, and I'm somebody who always track those numbers on my dashboard, but I can definitely get back to you with that number, because each mini grid, based on the capacity, has a number of connections that we connect and we track. But I don't have the total number of connection based on the 100 that we already completed.
Yeah, it's important. So we need, and 17 million is ambitious and is applaudable. So we need to know. Whenever we bring you, we try to check your last 6 months or last 1 year, so that we set new targets for ourselves, so that when we engage again, it's something that we enjoy doing with you through your ministry. So if maybe your aid can get us an average, we would like to know. But I was looking through the numbers yesterday, and I was studying the budget of REA. So from what I have seen from the budget office, the one published, the budget of the entire Ministry of Power, maybe marginally in excess of 1 trillion. Your agency takes 46% plus of that number, which is about 500 and something billion. In that 500 and something billion, correct me if I'm wrong, almost 99% is for capex, capital expenditure. So it tells me that it's long term, is low administrative, high project driven agency, which is applaudable on paper. My challenge now is, if you can help us with this data, based on all of this budget overlaps and complaints of releases of funds, if the bulk of responsibility sits on REA, how much releases have come to you? Have you been getting anything from even the 2026 budget so far?
So you see, the Rural Electrification Agency, we were very innovative. It's not only the budget that we are relying on as a source of funding. We have 4 different sources of funding. The Development Finance Institution funding, which is the World Bank, African Development Bank, and we have the market financing, we have grants and the capital budgets. So most of our projects that we are implementing that has to do with the mini grids are being structured under the Development Finance Institution, and all that funding has been released by Mr. President. Like I mentioned, the DES project is the biggest finance project in the entire world, and Mr. President approved the entire $750 million, which will catalyze a private sector finance of $1.1 billion US, and that is what we are using to do that. As regard to the capital budgeting, most of the funding that we get from the capital are either payments for loans or grid extension or constituency projects, and we have gotten some of the release from that funding, but like all other agencies, we are hoping that we will get much more so that we will complete
10%, 5%, 20%, 50% of your 500 billion. What have you seen so far?
I don't have that figure, to be honest, as at now, but quite all right, like all other agencies, we did not receive, I think, more than 30%.
So, Dr. Ali, it will be interesting, perhaps maybe the coming, again, weeks or months, so that we can have some of these.
6 months from now.
Okay, 6 months from now, my colleague is suggesting, so that we can, again, just do a review of your agency and the numbers. So I know that the Electricity Act is allowing states now to perhaps pursue their own power markets. So I'm wondering how you and your agency are trying to ensure that you perhaps complement what the federal government is doing at the subnationals, not there to duplicate or conflict, but to perhaps complement what subnationals are doing. Are you impressed at all by what states are doing?
Very, very good question. It's a question that all other agencies within the power sector needs to be asking themselves with the coming of the Electricity Act and the state subnational markets, how the federal is aligned with that. For rural electrification agents, we are very innovative in that regard. Last year, we created what we call the state-by-state roundtable, where we bring in the entire management, executive management of the state, led by the executive governors, to Abuja and bring in the private sector as well as rural electrification agency. It's not just a show. The state-by-state roundtable is an opportunity, one, to harmonize what the subnationals are doing and what the rural electrification agency is doing. One, we use that opportunity to let the subnational get to understand all the plans that we have under the DES and all other programs that we are implementing, and we use that also opportunity to present to them the mapping of the state. So in each state by state roundtable, for example, when we had that with Abia, we presented to the governor and the executives of the state the mapping of the entire Abia state, all the communities within the Abia, the communities that are electrified and those that are not electrified, and we also provided the state with what is the least cost of electrifying each community, not just the state, but each and every single community, because each community has its own different nuances, and by that it means there's an economically efficient way to electrify that community. So we provided them with that, and we even went further to now tell them that when you create your electricity market, this is the kind of structure that you need to establish so that the off-grid renewable energy subsector can continue to deliver and continue to partner with REA. So we have created that alignment, and as last year we have done with 27 states, we are continuing with this state. We are starting with most likely Anambra, then we will go with Taraba, plus the all other states, including Abuja, that we have not done the state-by-state roundtable. So we are creating that alignment. And To answer the second part of your question, we are seeing a lot of synergy and development. To be very sincere when it comes to renewable and rural electrification agency. And I give you a typical example. Last 3 weeks we were in Adamawa State where we did the groundbreaking for 13.5 megawatt interconnected mini grid in Saminaka, Fufure, and one other community. What we have seen that the governor did was giving free land and a massive quick processing. I think in 12 hours he was able to produce certificate of occupancy and provided it to our developer, the private sector, and we promised to deliver 13.5. And when I say 13.5, you need to understand, see what the state received and how 13.5 can enhance the electricity supply of that state. The same thing with Kaduna. We are doing about 10 megawatts in Makarfi and Trapco area in Kaduna to inject additional reliability. The governor also has provided us with that certificate of occupancy. We are going next week to Yobe. We have been in Anambra with Governor Soludo, where we are going to inject 8.5 megawatt. We are going to do about 15 in Lagos. So all this, we are partnering with the governor, and we are seeing a lot of synergy and commitment from the subnationals.
I'm wondering what determines what criteria determines your needs assessment in your conversations with states where you are initiating this mini grid project. And the reason I ask this is because we've had several conversations with representatives of Isoko North and South in Delta State, where they have not had power supply for about 10 years, and in some areas we hear that there's even more. And so I wonder if Delta State is on your list in terms of conversations. I don't know how it is initiated. Is it the state government that approached the REA for intervention, or REA itself, determines its needs assessment based on certain criteria? I'd like you to talk to us about that. And the second leg of my question would be the impact, affordability of this, of access to this mini grid, and the impact on the local economy. The real sector are still not being significantly impacted by policies, and one of which would be this massive drive for access to alternative sources of energy.
Very good. For Delta states, we are going there. Like I said, there's no state where rural electrification agency is not going. We are going to Delta. In fact, for your information, for record, for public record, we are injecting, I think, 15 megawatt in Delta State. We have been also in Port Harcourt, where we did the groundbreaking for 13 megawatt, I think, in Kana, One, and one more other community that I can't remember the name. The governor was very magnanimous. He also had handed over the certificate of occupancy to us. So we are going to Delta. I think they have an economic summit, which immediately after that we will do the groundbreaking with the governor, and he's been very also supportive. We did the state-by-state roundtable with the Delta State. Apart from the 15.5 megawatt that will inject in Delta, there will be even some isolated mini grids. And like I said, rural electrification agency, you see, you need to appreciate the level of data that we have. And I repeat, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we mapped the entire country. We identified over 750,000 communities that exist in the entire country. There's no place within the country as a community that we do not have the data of that community. From Lagos State, which we call the biggest community, was about 2.5 million households, to communities that have only 2 or 3 houses. We have that data. We know the number of houses. We know the electricity situation of those communities. We know the nature of the work, and we have determined the least cost to provide that community with electricity. So it's data that is influencing us where we should go. And that is why our projects are normally effective at changing the dynamics of when it comes to electricity. And that is one of the things the Honorable Minister of Power is being very keen on. Let's continue to make sure that it's data that driven us. The second thing is also partnership with the distribution company, because for interconnected mini grids, it's not an isolated mini grid. We connect it with the main grid, and which means that we have to encroach into the franchise area of the distribution company. In this regard, the Honorable Minister of Power ensures that there is a partnership between the distribution companies, us, the communities. In fact, it's the entire 48 interconnected mini grid site that we are developing now. The site have been provided to us by the distribution companies. They provided us with a total of 650 sites, of which we chose the most impactful 48 to deliver under the phase 1. Then we will continue to do it. Like I told you, our target is to do 250 interconnected mini grids. The second part of your question in terms of affordability, you see, this is one of the wisdom of the current administration of Mr. President, whereby we should be providing grants for protection rather than consumption, and that is what the renewable ecosystem is catalyzing. What we are doing is catalyzing the private sector to deploy this infrastructure by providing them with a capital grant to defray the cost of deploying the infrastructure, which by extension would reduce the cost of the tariff. And that is why you see in most of the mini grids that we deployed, the collection rate has been more than 95%, which is very effective and providing the services. And in all the mini grids that we deploy, I want to make it very clear that we deploy 100% metering. We connect the entire communities. We do the distribution network. We do the generation plant, distribution network, metering, and a SCADA system that will ensure that we track every single electron we generate from the solar farm to the household or to the businesses. And the last part of your question is electricity. It's no more a brainer to say that whether electricity is catalyzing small, medium businesses, even the big businesses, high industries, now renewable energy is catalyzing it. The Honorable Minister was in Niger, where I accompanied him to a solar farm that was deployed in Niger, about, I think, 20 megawatt that is powering a still melting plant. It's still wind. It is one of the high intense electricity consumption factories, but it's a solar farm that is powering that, and that is what we are doing, and that is why we are opening our scaling up our capacities from the 1 mega to like 10, so that we continue to power big, medium businesses across the country.
Yeah, we're no doubt of some of the efforts you've made, and they are quite commendable. We've reviewed you over and over, so we'll keep challenging you to give us more data and provide us with the questions we're asking, because we can see some of the work and they are commendable, but there's more to be done. 2 cases I want to make here, which my colleague has made. Isoko people, we've interviewed them. From government to the community. So I don't know what you have to do, because I looked at your budget, that 2026 at least. I told you I spent time with your budget last night. I did not see anything that has to do with Isoko. They have oil wells and all these things. So I don't think it's fair, because the argument was whether they had the installations and it's not being used, is moribund, or they are not able to afford it. But the people say they've not had light in some places for up to 20 years. So off-grid, these are underserved areas. So if the grid is not working for them, REA can help out. So I think you should look at that one. And also, well, my village people say, why am I not making a case for them? But in Eastern Obolo, please look at I'm from Eastern Obolo in Akwa Ibom State. Where I'm going to with that for Isoko people is that I also looked at the provisions for Akwa Ibom, for instance, and I see that Oroganam local government has the Okanafon Oroganam Federal Constituency 21 million for the provision and installation of solar street lights. I don't know whether I can remember this, because the budget is a lot of work. Provision of solar street light in Oroganam again for 35 million. Is it a repetition, or these are different projects? And how come we have a lot of Oroganam? My village is not there, but With respect.
So starting with the delta, like I told you, the 15.5 is unfortunate. I don't know the name of the specific communities that we are injecting that 15.5, but I'm very confident that it may be the Isoko areas, because we look at the data and we determine where there is no electricity and go to that area. But I promise to get back to you and give you the details of where that 15.5 megawatts will be injected in Delta State. As regards to the second part of the Akwa Ibom, I have the data. We are injecting 4 megawatts in Akwa Ibom, and it's around the Aka Road somewhere there. That is where we are injecting, because there are a lot of chunk number of households that they need electricity, but the feeder providing them has not been effective. So we want to inject 4 megawatts in that community, and we will continue to do more within the Akwa Ibom. In terms of the budget, the budget comes with a prescribed where we should go to intervene. So in that regard, we don't use our data. We have to, the budget say no. If they say we should go to a particular community, we'll go to that community and deploy. But if there is any duplication, I tell you this is one thing that ICPC is very effective in doing. They will draw our attention, and we would go back to the National Assembly either to relocate the fund to a different area within the state, or to inform them of the fact that it's already been done. But I don't have much data details on that particular line of budget that you
Ms. Ali, before my colleague comes in, just in case it's a duplication, just put it to Eastern Obolo. In Eastern Obolo local government in Akwa Ibom. My village is operating. Just let me make a case for my people. Dr. Ali, so the good thing is that maybe perhaps we should collaborate a bit more, because as journalists we move around a lot, so we know a lot of communities that do not have power. So I'm trying not to mention mine as well, because it's the same story. We have, and we know a lot of them who do not have power.
Please mention it.
So as well, Cross River, Ikom and Boki local government, but universal electricity access by 2030. How possible is that dream? I wonder perhaps if you can identify one decision that we have to make as a country to achieve that goal by 2030. What exactly is that big decision?
I think we are making those big decisions, and I'm being very, very honest with you. The implementation, one thing that Mr. President, one credit that Mr. President has to get from the Nigerians is his bold and audacious ambition to address electricity access by approving the biggest funding, publicly funded for renewable energy access. To be very honest, there is no country that was this ambitious to say that, okay, let's face 17.5 million Nigeria to provide them. And I keep on telling you, I and channels, I like that, because you always challenge us, you bring us back, and I want to even use the opportunity to say that let's have a review in December, but whereby we will come back and still provide you with all the mini grids that we have completed, show the pictures, show the connection, and you can also go at your own cost to interview these people, the communities, to make sure that yes, they have what we are saying, the electricity. So even the data, you don't have to leave the comfort of your office to be showing us where the communities are without the electricity. Like I told you, we have done the mapping. We will come and present for you to see the mapping. I can show you the rooftop of your house from my laptop to show you whether it has electricity or not.
Dr. Ali, when you say at our own cost, all of us on this table are field journalists as well. We would love to join you and go and see these things for ourselves and capture it with the lens of our cameras. But perhaps, you can just join your team. But it's a fine place to live with, Dr. Ali. Welcome to you and your team. One thing we know is that wherever there are conversations around trying to improve our power sector, I see that you're always always there. I think there's an MOU between REA and the NCC as well, which was reported over the weekend. But well done again. Thank you. December again, we'll do that review with you. Dr. Abba Aliyu is the MD and CEO of REA, which is the Rural Electrification Agency. Thank you indeed for your time and insights on the program as always.
Thank you for having me.